Today marks the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. Police raided the LGBTQ hotspot in Manhattan back in 1969. They assaulted customers and arrested 13 people. But unlike past raids where bar patrons scattered, they stayed and fought back. It's widely known as the moment that sparked the modern LGBTQ rights movement.
For that reason, the month of June has unofficially been deemed Pride Month in the U.S.
However, this piece of history often isn't taught in schools like many other issues and events that are important to the LGBTQ community. Today, we explore the topic of LGBTQ curriculums in schools. In 2017, GLSEN, or the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, found almost 20% of LGBT students were taught positive representations about people like them in school. A little more than 18% were taught negative content regarding those issues. And about half of the students with internet access at school said they were able to access LGBTQ-related information online. It found in many states whether these curriculums do or don't exist is all intentional depending on where you look.
I want to share with you all today the fact that I am a transgender man.
This day in 2015 was a long time coming. Sam Long, a second-year teacher in Denver, Colorado, had to go on both a personal and professional journey before he could tell his story to 500 students.
It's all right if you don't really know how to feel about this or react to this right now. It's all right to feel shocked or confused. This is something that you all need to learn about.
He says he was doing it not only to be honest about who he was, but to educate his students about something he felt many of them had never been able to discuss with an adult.
Students would react in different ways, and they shouldn't be all expected to react positively, but they should all be expected to respond with courage in learning about a new thing and with respect.
Long now comes out to his classes every year. He wrote in Education Weekly that he's come out to roughly 1,000 students so far.
If they're not exposed to it in school, they might kind of go off on this journey in life, and there is nothing that will expose them to the fact that, well, these are all these ways to be human.
And he isn't the only one who believes LGBTQ topics should be more prevalent in schools. In fact, a handful of states have legislated the issue. California and New Jersey have passed bills mandating public schools include LGBTQ topics in their curriculums. New York, Illinois, and Colorado lawmakers have passed similar bills but are waiting on governor signatures.
I'm going to have a second grader next year, and if these topics were to come up and a second grader raises their hand, that conversation is going to be had that I would like to have at home.
Years after its legislation passed, California school districts are starting to incorporate the changes. But about 700 parents in Rockland, California, pulled their kids out of school in protest. They told the Rockland School District Board younger children aren't ready for discussions that may confuse them.
We as parents do indeed have parental rights when it comes to our children's education. We were told at the board meeting on Wednesday that we do not.
But age isn't the only argument used to refute these curriculums. In fact, some states find them inappropriate altogether and created no pro-homo laws, which keeps schools from supporting or educating students about LGBTQ people or issues. Students across 6 states learn from lessons informed by these no pro-homo laws. They exist in Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas. In Alabama, for example, teachers must factually state from a public health perspective that homosexuality is not a lifestyle acceptable to the general public. Arizona and Utah recently repealed no pro-homo laws. What do you say to people who think that this does not belong in schools, that it should be a parent's choice, or that it's pushing some sort of agenda to teach this in a school setting?
The same people generations ago were saying things about teaching Black history in schools. And that was back when we still had segregation. And so it's something that continues on. It really depends on where you are, and it really depends on where you're coming from. But we are very steadfast in the fact that this helps students.
Sarah Grossman is a board member of the Drew Project, an LGBTQ advocacy organization created to honor her friend Christopher Andrew Lenonen, who was killed in the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting.
All his life, he brought people together. In high school, he won the Anne Frank Humanitarian Award for starting the Gay-Straight Alliance.
The organization took some of Drew's notes and created an LGBTQ curriculum. Grossman says their goal is simple.
You know, in one word, acceptance. We're not looking for tolerance. That's not enough. Acceptance comes from education. And if you understand a thing, if you understand a concept, if you understand a community, then you're able to accept them and realize that they're not so different than yourself.
What are the consequences if this isn't something that's taught in schools and that children kind of have to learn on their own out in the world?
If we can move the education from the internet, which is a great resource, it can be, but if we can give them a first resort at school and have them feel safe there and build a community there, then it's probably a lot better than, 15-year-olds making Grindr accounts, for instance, to learn about sexuality.
Their curriculum covers topics like the history of the LGBTQ movement and the rights of students. Grossman says so far more than 180 teachers, organizations, and students have downloaded it.
It's there for either teachers to be teaching things during Gay History Month. It's there for gay straight alliances to have a guide and workshops and workbooks and activities for an entire year's worth of meetings after school.
GLSEN, the nation's leading LGBTQ education organization, also offers tons of digital lesson plans for schools to download. It found inclusive lessons like the ones the Drew Project provides, or even simple discussions like Sam Long has with his students, all promote respect and appreciation for diversity and help prevent LGBTQ students from being bullied and harassed.
Sometimes when we learn about something that's new to us, that can result in some confusion, anger, and hostility. And those are things that I've encountered before. But hopefully with time and with education, that kind of ignorance can transform into understanding.